48 hours. We take you there.
We planned a life together forever.
Pat and Elizabeth were high school sweethearts.
We very much wanted to be married.
They had 2 children, Ted and Chris.
He's a devoted husband and certainly a devoted father.
Their lives seemed picture perfect until Dad suddenly vanished.
The last thing I remember is waiting for him to come home at night.
Then they found his suicide note.
Please tell the boys I will watch over them from heaven.
His family was sure he was dead.
If he was alive, he would never be able to leave my brother and I behind.
Now, after 15 hard years on their own,
My first thought was, could this possibly be true?
a stunning discovery.
She called me and said, Elizabeth, sit down.
Russ Mitchell and Harold Dow investigate.
I think Pat may be alive.
Dad's double life. You're leading a perfectly normal life with a good job and a wonderful family, and things seem to be going along just fine. But then comes a problem. It hangs on, you can't solve it. Truth is, after a while, you can't even face it. Then one day, suddenly and with no warning, you vanish. What if someone you thought you knew well, someone you depend on, someone you love, just disappears? That is precisely what happened to a devoted husband and father who became desperate for a way out, leaving those closest to him to wonder what really happened. Russ Mitchell begins to unravel the mystery of a dad's double life, a life that was once picture perfect.
The spirit of the times was long blonde hair and Beach Boy music, and the future is all yours to take and everything good is going to happen.
In 1964, Elizabeth Schenk, a 16-year-old schoolgirl, began dating a boy who would change her life forever, Patrick Hennessy Welsh.
Pat was the kind of person that would be characterized by anyone as a really good catch.
And so Elizabeth Schenk became Elizabeth Welsh. Elizabeth, whose nickname is Peachy, and Pat had 2 sons.
They are
Ted
the kind of sons
and Chris.
that a mother would pray for, let alone be proud of.
Tell me about those early days of your marriage. How would you describe them?
Oh, my characterization would be they were very, very happy.
And by all appearances, the Welshes were happy.
I would have to characterize him, too, as a devoted husband and certainly a devoted father. I mean, he was close with those boys.
But after a few years of marriage, there were money problems.
I was totally blindsided by it.
Problems which Pat had kept secret from Peachy.
We had been on a vacation, and he was very distraught, and it was hard to get him to stand still to tell me what the problem was.
The problem was Pat had stolen $23,000 from Ohio State University,
That was out of the blue
where he worked as a fundraiser.
and out of character, as far as I was concerned, and as far as everyone that knew Pat Welsh was concerned. He was the fair-haired boy.
In 1980, Welsh was convicted of embezzlement, sentenced to 30 days in jail, and ordered to pay restitution.
It had been difficult to try to explain to the boys. They had to understand that their dad had done something that wasn't right, and he was making that better.
For over 2 years, Pat did try to make things better.
In a wedding anniversary card that he gave me, he slipped a note which said, things will be better, we'll be Pat and Peachy again, just relax and trust me. And I believed that.
Until January 21st, 1983.
We had made an agreement to meet up at my father's house that evening for dinner. Pat owed my father some money, and he was going to repay it that night.
But during dinner, Pat called from his office to say he wasn't going to make it.
And if it was all right with my father, he would repay him the money the next day, and that I should go ahead and go home.
The last thing I remember is waiting for him to come home at night and watching the snow fall and just waiting for his car.
But Pat Welsh never came back.
I imagine that he probably ended up in Iraq, or he was doing something else.
Ted Welsh was only 10 years old.
But he was going to be right back.
He didn't appear on Friday night, and Saturday morning and Sunday.
Everybody had always told me that he has to be dead.
Chris Welsh, 23, was only 7.
If he was alive, he would never be able to leave my brother and I behind.
Elizabeth, can you tell me what your reaction was when you got this letter
Oh,
15 years ago?
I was devastated.
5 days after Pat
It
disappeared,
was horrible.
Elizabeth received a letter.
I know you don't believe this now, but what you needed was freedom from my shadow, from my past, and disgrace. The only way to give you that is through my death.
Overwhelmed with debt and humiliated by his past crime,
I wish I could kiss you goodbye.
Pat Welsh told his wife of 14 years
Please have my body cremated and not buried.
that he had gone to San Francisco to commit suicide.
Please tell the boys I will watch over them from heaven, that I love them very much and have the greatest hope for them. It was bad enough that Pat suddenly was gone, but then to receive this.
And despite an exhaustive search by the FBI, local police, and the Welsh family, Pat's body was never found. With 2 young sons and a mortgage, Pat had left Elizabeth with few options.
She didn't sleep. She didn't eat.
Claire Bailey is Elizabeth's sister.
The anxiety that I saw in my sister's eyes, the fear that I saw in their little boy's eyes, the unnecessary and unjust guilt that my sister carried with her, thinking that there's something that she should have done to keep this from happening, was probably one of the hardest things for me to deal with.
Awash in Pat's bad debts,
I found out that he hadn't been paying bills for a long time.
and with only $250 in a savings account,
I could not afford the house.
Elizabeth had to move her sons into this apartment.
I had to give away their dog because I couldn't afford to keep the dog.
And 5 years later, Pat was declared dead.
If it would just have been me, I don't know where I would be today. I really don't. But because of Ted and Chris, I had no choice. I mean, there was nowhere to go but on.
And that's exactly what Elizabeth Welsh did.
She worked her way up really fast.
Today, she is president of the Chamber of Commerce in Licking County, Ohio.
She had to excel, and she had to push herself in that envelope to be everything that she could be so that life would go on for her and for the boys.
But 15 years after Elizabeth first read Pat's suicide note, a shocking revelation arrived in the mail.
Zipped open the envelope and pulled out the form and read it and stood there in the middle of my living room and read it again. My first thought was, could this possibly be true?
When we come back,
I think Pat may be alive. I was the one who had to provide the explanations for what was happening.
5 years after Pat Welsh disappeared without a trace,
As far as you were concerned, there was no reason for you to think that he was still alive.
Elizabeth divorced her husband and had him declared dead.
Doesn't seem like a lot to have when you think you're closing a chapter on someone's life, does it?
She was then able to
Yeah.
collect a small amount of life insurance
I couldn't replace a father in their lives so easily,
and some Social Security survivor benefits for her sons.
but I could try to make a life for them that meant something.
Little did she know, those benefits would later provide the first clue to 15 years of lies and deception.
My first thought was, could this possibly be true?
Elizabeth received a shocking letter in the mail.
The boys' survivor benefits, partial survivor benefits that they had received would have to be paid back within 30 days because the number holder was alive. Actually, the terminology was not deceased.
According to the government, Pat Welsh was still alive,
I was thinking, wait, Elizabeth.
and they were demanding back their $56,000.
Basically, I called Social Security and said, what are you guys trying to do here?
Sally Testa was an aide to Elizabeth's congressman at the time, John Kasich.
I mean, we did what we could. How could you not?
With Sally's help,
I called a friend I have at the FBI.
Elizabeth was starting to grasp a difficult reality.
She called me and said, Elizabeth, sit down.
Someone named Tim Kingsbury,
And I said, well, Sally, I'm sitting.
who fit Pat Welsh's description,
And she said, I think this could be your husband.
was using his Social Security number.
And you're thinking what?
Timothy Kingsbury, who's this?
the winter of 1983, Patrick Welsh left his name and his past behind and pulled into Galveston, Texas on a bus with just a few dollars in his pocket. Residents say Galveston is a friendly and forgiving city, just the kind of place you might go if you wanted to reinvent your life.
He was just a tenant at my mom's house here, and he worked for my mom at Schlotsky's restaurant.
Kevin Doherty was just a teenager when a stranger named Tim Kingsbury moved into his mother's boarding house.
What'd you think of Tim?
Nicest guy I've ever met in my life.
Kingsbury told Doherty and others that he was a student here at the Galveston branch of the University of Texas Medical School.
Would it surprise you to know that we checked with the folks at the medical school and they said he was never enrolled there?
Very much so, because I know his books were all there, and he always seemed to be studying very diligently.
It was the first of many deceptions as Tim Kingsbury slowly established himself in Galveston society. In his early years, he developed a reputation as a local character, writing for a small newspaper. He wrote about learning to scuba dive, to sail, and running a marathon, complete with photos of himself. Responding to a feature on Galveston's eligible bachelors, the man who had abandoned his wife and 2 sons wrote, quote, "Can you imagine my surprise to find out I was not mentioned?" For a man on the run, Kingsbury didn't act like a man with much to hide. 6 months after his arrival, he was hired as a part-time publicist for the prestigious Galveston Historical Foundation, referred to as GHF. He was eventually appointed president. This is a recording of his acceptance speech.
GHF is where I learned and grew professionally. It's through GHF that I fell in love in every sense of the word.
While working at the foundation, he met Ann Anderson, a woman from a prominent Galveston family. He moved into her waterfront home, where they lived together for 10 years. Kingsbury eventually made his way into the inner circle of Galveston society, known as BOI, Born on the Island.
He just was a standout in helping the community and helping people.
He became close with Ann's brother, Vandy.
Another beautiful sunrise on Galveston Island this morning.
Part owner of the local radio station.
Vandy Anderson reporting, KGBC News.
Kingsbury later worked for him as general manager and reporter.
Now, this was Tim Kingsbury's office. He's done what I think a radio station manager should do, and that is to get involved in the community. These are various civic groups that he worked on and just some symbols of their appreciation for what he'd done.
Kingsbury made other close friends, all prominent Galvestonians.
The passion that he poured into getting the schools improved in our community, matched my own, and I have little children.
Sheila Lidstone works for the local school district.
He didn't come in with a lot of flash and I'm going to be in charge. He just gradually built his way into our hearts.
Dr. Brent Maisel says Kingsbury was his best friend.
I only know Tim Kingsbury, don't know Patrick Welch.
Gerald Sullivan, a businessman and cattle rancher.
I can truthfully put my hand on a Bible and swear that I know of nothing bad about Tim Kingsbury.
But even his friends had some suspicions along the way.
I wondered when we were having the school bond election, what would make a young man with no children who's not married get so involved.
He never really talked about his family, and I thought obviously something very onerous had happened in his life that was so horrible that there was no way he could discuss it. And again, I was one of his closest friends.
But they didn't ask, and Kingsbury didn't tell.
In Texas, there's an old saying, you don't ask a man how many cattle he has. If he wants you to know, he'll tell you.
For 13 years, he lived in Galveston, a pillar of the community. Then one day, late in the winter of 1996, everything started to unravel.
We had a citizen who came to us.
Mike Guarino, Galveston County District Attorney.
He had seen certain things at the radio station in the office of Tim Kingsbury that looked funny.
A co-worker had come across forgeries.
Some partially filled out Social Security cards, a birth certificate or two.
Now, just after you had seized those fraudulent documents, did you have suspicions about him?
Certainly.
Did you think that maybe he wasn't Tim Kingsbury?
Oh, absolutely.
At that point, Kingsbury confessed everything to the DA and to his friends.
It's devastating to hear that someone that you talk to just about every day has a whole nother life that you didn't know about. It's an incredible feeling.
And maybe just as incredible, no one seemed to hold it against him.
I don't blame Patrick Welsh. I don't know Patrick Welsh. We know Tim Kingsbury.
We're not talking about a rapist, a mugger, a murderer. He wasn't that awful a person.
I don't think that I've been deceived. I have many emotions, but being deceived is not one of them.
What about Patrick Welsh's wife and children?
I'm only in a position to judge what he's done here, and that's been remarkable.
They should have had those 15 years, they'll say. And they're right. I mean, they missed out. Kids missed out, family, community.
I guess I really don't blame his wife for being angry.
Gerald Sullivan's wife, Suzanne.
But he has suffered. I mean, he's had his own hell these 15 years.
Why are you so willing to forgive? I guess that's the question. You all here in this room are willing to forgive him for the deception.
He didn't hurt us. How did he hurt us? I mean, all he ever did here was good. There's no reason not to forgive him.
Would you accept him back here?
In a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat.
No question about it.
He faked his own death to his wife and his children for 15 years. They thought he was dead.
To do that kind of thing, to leave every single thing you ever had behind, everybody you knew behind, and get on a bus penniless and just ride to the end of the line is an act either of incredible cowardice or incredible bravery born out of desperation.
Which do you think it was?
I think it was bravery born out of desperation.
Kingsbury pleaded guilty to forgery and got 4 years probation, along with a $2,000 fine. But word of his false identity never got out into the community, never made the newspapers, never made the local news.
I think it is out of respect for Tim that people didn't gossip and didn't talk.
People in the courthouse knew, people in the probation office knew, lots of people knew. But they saw no need to rub Tim's nose in the dirt.
And Patrick Welsh was allowed to continue his life in Galveston as Tim Kingsbury. But because of the forgery conviction, he had to use his old Social Security number, triggering a chain of events in Ohio that would ultimately lead to his arrest.
Tim, you have anything to say before you leave Galveston?
And the model citizen left Galveston in handcuffs.
Coming up,
It's too simple to say, why did you do it?
Patrick Welsh faces his family.
I had questions for him.
All right.
For the first time in 15 years.
It really is like someone coming back from the dead.
And Elizabeth seeks justice.
Attention the terminal, contact staging a skycab with 1 electric cart, gate B12.
I don't have a sense of anger in this, but I do have a very strong sense of justice.
Mr. Welsh, why did you fake your own death?
I know that if this were any other person,
Mr. Welsh, is it really to be bad?
other than Patrick Welsh,
You glad to be maybe getting this thing behind you?
a charming, articulate, handsome man.
Do you have anything to say to your ex-wife and your 2 sons who haven't seen you in the last 15 years?
But that person already would have been behind bars.
When Elizabeth Welsh discovered her ex-husband was alive and well, she had a difficult decision to make.
How far was I willing to make another exception for Pat?
It's too simple to say, why did you do it?
And can I turn to my sons and say, you were disposable people?
I wanted to know who I was.
It's okay because look at all the good he's done in Galveston.
I had questions for him.
This is wrong.
Where did he go wrong?
For the sake of her children,
Where could I go right?
Elizabeth pursued the man who had faked his own death and abandoned them 15 years earlier.
I sent him an email to the attention of Tim Kingsbury. I know. Call me.
When that didn't work,
Did you hear back from him?
No.
she went to Galveston without Pat knowing.
What did you see?
A very comfortable lifestyle. A very visible person.
With a Ford Explorer and a convertible in the driveway of his waterfront home.
Certainly a better style of life than he had provided for Ted and Chris.
She came home from her Galveston trip and said, you know what?
Elizabeth's sister, Claire.
While the boys and I ate macaroni and cheese, Pat's been drinking margaritas.
Did that make you angry?
It amazed me. It absolutely amazed me.
Elizabeth felt she had no choice but to call the authorities and have him brought back to Ohio.
It really is like someone coming back from the dead and bringing mystery with them.
All right.
On January 31st, 1998,
This is State of Ohio versus Patrick Hennessy Welsh. Case
Almost 15 years to the day he left his home and family.
A motion was filed for a reduction in bond.
Patrick Welsh was arrested and charged with insurance fraud and non-support of his two sons.
This is not a situation where people have been harmed, where anybody has been killed.
His defense attorney, Sam Weiner, is trying to get his $300,000 bond reduced.
This man is really no threat to society and certainly no threat to leave the jurisdiction.
So he can be released to his girlfriend, Ann Anderson, and wait out his trial back in Galveston.
Mr. Beck.
When he asked to be released from bond, what he's saying is, trust me.
Bob Becker is the Licking County District Attorney.
I understand this is not a murder case, but I do take strong exception to Mr. Weiner's characterization of this case as one without victims. There are, in fact, real victims in this case who have suffered real harm.
The motion for reduction in bond is denied.
Clear the hallway, please.
When this whole thing's over, I may never see him again. I will never know that until it's over.
So even though you see him now in shackles and in prison gear, at least you get to see him.
That's correct. I have a father for this brief moment.
With Pat Welsh sitting in jail.
I'm not angry, I'm not nervous.
Unable to run from his problems this time.
I'm here to see what he has in terms of plans for his future.
Elizabeth and her sons finally had a chance to confront him face to face for the first time in 15 years.
Not our future, but his future, as it still affects something that for him became a liability. Thanks. And for me became the greatest assets of our kids.
What do you think he wants?
Out.
Out of jail.
Out of jail.
30 minutes later.
Well, that was different. He said right off the top he was sorry. I didn't believe him. Just like pressing charges, I had to press him to think about the reality of what he's facing now and that he can't just fantasize about returning to Galveston.
What was it like the moment you walked into that jail and saw him?
And it was a lot like looking into a mirror. We mimicked each other almost. He said, I love you, and I said, take care of yourself. I'm gonna go hide.
I brought up the boys. It was clearly painful for him.
I expressed to him that he really needs to show some sort of admission to his family, to my mother, to my brother, and to me, that he has indeed done us wrong.
When he told you that he loved you, did you believe him?
I don't know, I wanted to, but I don't know if I can trust him.
More important than words are the actions. He can say he's sorry, but he has to show me he's sorry, and he has yet to do that.
Pat Welsh pleads no contest to 8 felony and 4 misdemeanor counts of fraud and non-support.
You solemnly swear?
So he not only needs his family's forgiveness.
Mr. Welsh, do you agree with the facts as has been stated by the prosecutor?
Yes, Your Honor.
He's also at the mercy of the court.
Are you entering the pleas or changing your pleas freely and voluntarily, knowing what your rights are?
Yes, Your Honor.
Coming up.
You have no conscience, your acts were cowardly, and they were criminal.
Judgment Day for Patrick Welsh.
And for that, you will be punished.
But first,
you'd have to lift up a low rock in a wet place to find anybody as sorry as he is.
The tide turns in Galveston.
How did Patrick Welch, a father who disappeared, manage to outrun his past for so long? Maybe it's because some of the people who got to know him in his new life, alias Tim Kingsbury, simply wanted to believe the best about people. Or maybe they just didn't want to know the worst. However it happened now, after 15 years, a dad's double life is finally catching up with him. Here again is Harold Dow in Galveston, where they are changing their tune.
While Patrick Welsh sits in an Ohio jail, back in Galveston, the tide of public support has begun to turn against him.
Well, I think he's probably one of the great con men of all times.
A.R. Schwartz is known to everyone here as Babe.
I think embezzlers, con men, forgers, liars, cheats, and thieves ought to do hard time when they're caught.
As majority owner of the local radio station, Schwartz hired Patrick Welsh, alias Tim Kingsbury, as general manager.
In his application, he said he was single, said he had no children, and he gave his name and he gave a fictitious Social Security number.
Schwartz, a former state senator, admits he's one of many people in Galveston who got duped by Welsh.
He conned me pretty good, and I don't like it. I don't like being conned. I don't like being that stupid.
And Schwartz says the Galveston County District Attorney, Mike Guarino, was also conned.
I have written the district attorney, and I've told him he got conned too.
Even though Guarino charged Welsh with forgery and knew that this well-known public figure was living a lie, he never announced that accusation publicly.
This man goes before the court, goes before the district attorney. How come nobody in the community knows about this?
I don't know. If it had been some kid that jerked 4 hubcaps off a car, it'd have been in the newspaper.
Some people thought the district attorney should have called a press conference, should have had his picture plastered out there for the entire community to see. What's your response to that?
The district attorney is not a publicist or the town crier, so to speak. He's the prosecutor, and he's got to prosecute the case.
Which Guarino says he did, right by the book.
We really didn't handle it any differently than we would have handled, you know, a forgery case of this nature.
He admits he knew about Welsh's abandoned family in Ohio.
Did you know he was married with children?
Yes, we did know, because he told us he had walked away from a family. We had no current information on them or their whereabouts.
But at the court hearing to determine Welsh's sentence, Guarino never informed the judge about Elizabeth and their 2 sons.
Judge Carmona, the district judge, got conned. Never in his lifetime would he have given Patrick Welsh probation had he known that Patrick Welsh abandoned his wife and children.
District Court Judge Frank Carmona confirmed to 48 Hours that he was not told about Welsh's family. Guarino says he never brought it up because it was not a legal issue relevant to the forgery case.
Did you feel it was your responsibility to try to seek out and locate the wife, the children of Patrick Welsh?
No, at the time we did not. We did not think about it. We had notified all the agencies that we thought were proper, including the Ohio side of the equation. We thought they would seek them out, but we really didn't think about it. Hindsight's 20/20. I'd probably do it today.
He's not admitted publicly that he was conned like the rest of us, but he should.
But Schwartz is far more upset at his partner, Vandy Anderson, co-owner of the radio station and brother of Kingsbury's girlfriend.
I put it all on his back because he knew every bit of it.
Vandy was on the air.
Vandy was on the air every day.
Schwartz believes Anderson had an obligation as a news reporter to inform the public.
Vandy Anderson should have come out here and said, Tim Kingsbury has been convicted of his 2nd felony at the courthouse today.
You think he should have went on the air and said that?
Absolutely. If he goes on the air and gives the news, that's news.
Because of that, Schwartz fired Anderson as news broadcaster.
According to Babe, this man known as Tim Kingsbury conned you, conned your sister, conned everybody.
Sure.
Do you feel like you've been conned?
No, not at all.
Anderson's sister, Ann, remains loyal to him as well.
She supports him 100%. I think they'll be together the rest of their lives.
Do you think he conned your sister?
No, I think we all knew that there was a past, and we just didn't want to know what it was.
Ann Anderson declined our request for an interview.
If this guy had conned my sister, my first inclination would be to beat the hell out of him.
What we know him as is a good person. If he did something years ago that was bad, he's made up for that, I think, in his own life. I hope so. And that's how we know him.
But as the story unfolds, others in Galveston aren't so forgiving.
The guy belongs in an orange jumpsuit. I guarantee you, 2 years in the general prison population will make a brand new man out of him.
Doug McLeod, chairman of Moody Gardens, a top tourist attraction, worked with Kingsbury in various civic groups.
This guy was, in fact, nicknamed the Amazing Tim. That's understandable now because he gained this trust. Everyone felt like this guy was the most trustworthy person in the world.
McLeod believes the people of Galveston are wiser from the whole experience.
If a new person came to town tomorrow and donated a lot of time to community efforts, do you think you'd still check him out?
I think
I know the answer to this.
Just ahead.
Elizabeth Welsh wishes to make a statement.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The public confrontation.
Every Father's Day for the past 15 years was stolen from the lives of your sons.
What will be the punishment for Patrick Welsh's deception?
You're telling me you're not angry at this man?
I'm not angry with this
Not
man.
even a little bit?
I don't believe so.
It's been 7 months since Patrick Welsh was brought back from the dead.
He has chosen his course and I have chosen mine.
And today,
I feel that I have done the right thing for my sons.
Judgment Day for the charges of non-support and insurance fraud.
Pat maintains that he believes he did the right thing when he deserted us.
All right.
Besides facing his punishment,
This is State of Ohio versus Patrick Hennessy Welsh.
Pat Welsh must also face his family, including his own father. Elizabeth Welsh comes to court with a new look and new determination that what she did was right.
Today's date is May 21, 1998. We're here today for the purposes of sentencing.
I've made it clear from the beginning that I believe a term in prison is appropriate in this case. It seems to me this is this man's third felony conviction. For that fact alone, he ought to go to prison.
Welsh has pleaded no contest.
This court finds that the defendant is guilty as charged.
And will be sentenced by Judge Gregory Frost.
Coming now to the matter of sentencing.
But first,
The court has been informed that Elizabeth Welsh wishes to make a statement, and also Christopher, I believe, wishes to make a statement. Ms. Welsh?
Thank you, Your Honor. Pat, you started on this sad journey by stealing money from Ohio State University, from your father, and from mine. You took our love, you took our trust, you took our innocence, our home, and any hope we had for a normal life. Every trip to Colorado, every South Padre Island vacation, every Christmas, every Easter, every 4th of July, every Father's Day for the past 15 years was stolen from the lives of your sons. Instead of being a father that they can respect and emulate, you are a 50-year-old kept man. And what was I to make of your last letters to me? Do you remember what you wrote? You are my light and my deepest love. You know how much I treasure life. I treasure you and your future more. You know how much you are a part of me, so I hope you know that a part of me will live on. Know that there was no one on earth that I cherished more. But you did cherish someone more, Pat, and that person was you. I'm sorry for you, Pat.
Christopher, do you wish to make a statement?
Yes.
Come forward.
How can you turn your back on a family that loves you? How can you in one breath say you love somebody and then turn your back and run? How for 15 years can you never call your sons and say hello? How can you look me in the eye right now? I hope you'd think about this and maybe give me some sort of reply.
Finally, Mr. Welsh, is there anything you wish to say before the court pronounces sentence in this matter?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Ted and Chris, I love you deeply. I really do. The great sadness of my life is that because of what I've done, you may never know how much I love you or how much I missed you. Peachy, I'm sorry. You did a wonderful job with the boys. I'm sorry for what I've done. And I'm ready to continue my punishment. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Welsh.
And finally, with Elizabeth, Chris, and Pat's father, Richard, watching.
You have no conscience. Your acts were cowardly, and they were criminal.
His sentence.
And for that, you will be punished. You therefore have a total sentence to be served of 4 years at the Orient Correctional Receiving Center. There is restitution to be made, and you will pay every penny of that.
4 years of prison and over $92,000 in fines.
Is this ever going to be over for you?
It doesn't come to closure exactly, but this part of it does. The hurtful part of it that involved deception, betrayal, hardship is done. It's done. Now it gets settled. The debts get paid, and we all go on.
Next,
I know I did bad things. I know I did terrible things.
Pat Welsh tells his side of the story.
I need to explain that I never stopped being a loving father. I know I did bad things. I know I did terrible things. But I tried once and for all to make something positive of my life in Galveston.
Patrick Welsh has never spoken publicly about his disappearance.
I need to explain that I never stopped being a loving father.
Until now.
I did this thing to make life better for my boys without having to live under the shadow of this criminal who was Pat Welsh.
We've seen pictures of you with the boys, and you look so happy. You look like the model dad. What happens to a guy? How do you go from that to doing what you did?
I mean, it was very, very vivid in my mind when it happened. I had told Elizabeth that I was going to pay her father back money that I didn't have.
That was January 21st, 1983, the day Pat Welsh disappeared.
I thought there was some way I could get that money, and when I couldn't get that money, I knew that what was going to ensue was just the disintegration of everything. And I said, this is it. This is the moment that I have to just go kill myself.
Did you really intend to kill yourself?
Absolutely, absolutely. I went to the edge of the pier. I was a bad person to myself. I thought they would eventually be happy to have been rid of that bad person. In the end, I couldn't face that. That in the last second, you can't say you're sorry for killing yourself.
The person that I just saw on those tapes was acting.
48 Hours showed Pat's interview.
I did a bad thing.
To Elizabeth and her son.
My interpretation was that he was acting the part of someone who was supposed to be contrite, who dearly loved his sons and was really trying to do the right thing by them.
How did you come up with the name Tim Kingsbury?
Looked in a newspaper for someone who was born about that time.
Really? Just looked in the newspaper, saw this name, said that sounds good.
Yeah.
Why Texas?
Far away. I've never known anyone from Ohio who'd ever gone to Texas. Couldn't afford to go to the East Coast or to California. Texas.
You say you did this for your family. What did you think was going to happen to them? How did you think they were going to get by?
I knew that my family had the resources to take care of the boys. I knew that Elizabeth was beautiful and talented, and someone else would come into her life and become a new father for the boys.
But that's not how things worked out.
I'm lucky that I had a lot of books to read, and I had Chris and my mom and Aunt Claire around, and we never did find another dad.
Did you like being a husband and father?
Oh, sure. That was absolutely wonderful.
Trust. There's no trust there whatsoever. I mean, I cannot trust this man at all. And I do not trust anything he says.
In those 15 years, how often did you think about the boys?
Every day.
Every day?
Every day. Every day.
Why not just pick up the phone and call? Hi, just wanted you to know, I'm alive. I'm here. I did this for this reason, that reason, whatever, but I'm here. If it was bothering you so much, why couldn't you do that?
I thought about picking up the phone and calling them. Those are the times when you would say, the price I'm paying is not knowing, and I'm going to pay that price today.
Let me just make sure I understand this. But you thought you were punishing yourself by not picking up the phone and calling them.
Exactly. I mean, I certainly wouldn't have brought them any joy.
You know what they told me when I first met them? I was so happy.
Okay.
I had a dad.
Oh, good.
My father is still alive. So maybe if you picked up the phone, it wouldn't have been as bad as you thought.
Thanks for telling me that.
I keep thinking, how can he say these things and keep a straight face?
Would you like to have a relationship with Ted and Chris?
Absolutely. I want it desperately. I know I don't deserve it. I know it's on their terms. But when that day comes, I hope it does come. When that day comes, I hope it's pure and simple, that when they see me, they're glad.
But since Pat Welsh's sentencing, Ted and Chris say their father has not contacted them.
He's obviously erased my brother and I from his lives.
What do you owe the boys? What do you think you owe the boys?
Game of catch. Game of catch.
You can't even say he's a father. There's nothing behind those words.
Despite his 4-year sentence,
I'll pay my debt.
Pat Welsh is likely to be released in a few months.
And I'll make a contribution to this world.
And plans on returning to Galveston.
As Tim or as Pat?
As Pat. I mean, there's no charade anymore. It's my name.
I got to tell you, Elizabeth has been very gracious when it comes to you.
She's a better person than I am. She really is. I don't know why I would expect anything else.
Angel Downs' first love was the beach.
From the time we were kids, I think the beach was just always a part of her life. I'm Susan Bloodworth, Angel Downs' younger sister. Angel was a free spirit.
She was very loving and caring. Angel was a beautiful person with a very, very big heart.
Angel Downs was one of my best friends. My name is Stephen Nodine. I'm a former county commissioner in Mobile, Alabama, a former city council member, and a political operative. We loved each other. We loved being around each other. And I had a 6-year affair with her while I was married.
Steve Nodine was a very well-liked politician. I'm Jack Tillman, former sheriff of Mobile County. He run with some pretty powerful people. And apparently he had connections in Washington.
When I first met him, he was very charming, very sweet to her.
She fell for him, she fell in love, but as time went on, she realized Stephen was not leaving his wife. Anytime she would try to end the relationship, he would get angry. Stephen Nodine had a double personality. One moment he was happy-go-lucky, but if you made him angry, he turned into a completely different person. I just asked her, I said, what is it gonna take for you to leave him? For him to kill you?
I never seen a violent side from him, never.
911, what is your emergency?
Someone has been shot.
Unit 501, female is laying on the ground, bleeding heavily, gunshot wound to the head.
Every bit of evidence showed it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
There was a red truck here, and he left very quickly, and I'm pretty sure the man's name is Stephen Nodine.
I've been wrongfully accused of the murder of Angel Downs.
There were several occasions where she said, I'm probably going to lose my life to him.
There's a lot of theories out there, but I know that when I have to meet the Lord God Almighty, I can stand up there and say that I did not shoot, harm, hurt Angel Downs in any form or fashion.
I was adamant. Her friends were adamant. We were all adamant it was not suicide. Stephen killed Angel.
Angel Downs was hard to miss. Her friends joked about her startling good looks. They called her Barbie. And her love of the beach kept her close to home in Gulf Shores, Alabama.
We were best friends. We did everything together.
Susan Bloodworth is Angel's younger sister.
If you saw one of us, you saw both of us. We were just very tight, very close.
Angel was 45. She sold real estate in Gulf Shores and lived in one of those quiet subdivisions where nothing much ever happens. By all accounts, she was happy except when it came to affairs of the heart, emotionally and physically. She was born with a rare, life-threatening heart condition.
May I ask about the heart condition? What was it?
Thelma Hinckley is Angel's mother.
Her heart was the size of a man 65 years old, and she was 18 months old when we discovered that.
Because of her heart trouble, Angel could never have children.
Her animals were indeed her babies.
Winston, her cat, now lives with Angel's sister Susan.
He's all we have left of Angel.
The emotional heartache in Angel Downs' life began on the beach. In 2004, she met Stephen Nodine on a weekend here centered around a storied local tradition called mullet toss.
My God, you don't know what mullet toss is?
I'm not from around here, sir. What is mullet toss?
Mullet toss was a event. We toss a dead mullet. One year it's from Alabama to Florida. Next year it's from Florida to Alabama. It's a beach party. It's a big fundraiser for the Marine Corps. One of my greatest assets was that I was a celebrity mullet tosser.
Ladies and gentlemen, have a picture with us. Our celebrity tosser is Steve No-Dime.
Good fish.
How'd you do? How far'd you throw?
85. We were just down there having a good time, and we met through some friends and hit it off right away.
No-Dime had just been elected a county commissioner for Mobile County, Alabama. He was also married, although he says the marriage was on the rocks.
I lived in separate bedrooms with my wife for 14 years.
He began an affair with Angel Downs, who lived 50 miles away in Gulf Shores.
We spent the weekends on the beach, you know, down there playing Frisbee or, you know, just enjoying ourselves.
Mm-hmm. You didn't really keep this secret.
No.
I mean, you were seen in public with her all over the place.
Sure. In front of media.
Yeah, why did you do that?
Just because I was arrogant. Right next to that big hole up there.
That's where your office was?
Yeah.
He was also powerful, with powerful connections and the pictures to prove it. There are only 3 county commissioners in Mobile. They control the money. No-Dime built roads and parks and bridges.
Once you meet Steve, he's such a dynamic personality. I mean, he just latches on to you, you know, and you don't forget him.
Jack Tillman is the retired sheriff for Mobile County.
So if I'd come down here in, say, 2007, 2008, and I mentioned the name Steve No-Dime, what would people say?
Oh, they thought he was a tremendous commissioner. But now, as far as his personal life, I don't know. I didn't run with him in that way. We were political friends.
When No-Dime was running around with Angel Downs, her best friends, Emily Simmons and Kayla King Donald, saw them together frequently.
He was very nice, very polite, very loud, attention getter, wanted attention, life of the party. Everybody look at me.
Did you like him?
Yeah, I liked him. He was very nice.
He just had that hold on her that I can't explain.
We wanted to spend the rest of our lives together. We loved each other very much.
They had their ups and downs and even broke up a few times. Angel didn't like the role of the other woman, and she insisted repeatedly that No-Dime, who was not just married but was the father of a young son, get a divorce.
Desperately, she wanted him to get a divorce. She was in love with him.
And No-Dime promised he would.
About 6 months to a year into the relationship, she started questioning why it was taking so long for the divorce to be final, and then he, probably about a year into it, told her that he had never filed.
How did she feel about that?
Not very good.
Do you understand why you didn't get divorced?
Sure. I wanted everything. I wanted to have Angel. I wanted to have my family life to come back over here in Mobile. I wanted to escape to the beach when I could, to live 2 different lives.
It all worked pretty well for No-Dime for 6 years, until May 9th, 2010, Mother's Day.
It was a beautiful day.
Were you getting along?
Absolutely.
Angel looked very happy in photos taken just hours before she died.
We had a, normal day. I mean, no fighting, no arguing.
Until No-Dime dropped Angel off at her house and left to go home to his wife.
When we dropped each other off, and again, the comment was made to me that, oh, you're going back to your wife. I assumed she was pissed off. I more than likely said, I love you, big. And then I left, got up the road, forgot my wallet.
No-Dime turned around and went back to Angel Downs' place. We rented a similar truck and retraced his steps.
When I came back to get my wallet, I parked parallel to her house. My radio was going, my stereo, and My air conditioner was going.
Did you see her at all?
No. When I came in to get my wallet, I came in, I grabbed my wallet and left.
And that's when this quiet subdivision suddenly stopped being one of those places where nothing much ever happens.
Before the gunshots, had you seen the truck here? Oh yeah, the truck's been here.
Angel's neighbor, Roger Whitehead, who's a firefighter, will probably never forget that evening.
I think there was a gunshot. Mr. Nodine was still here, and then he got in his truck and left.
I did not shoot her. I did not harm her. She took her own life. She's not here to accept that responsibility.
We continue to follow some breaking news out of Baldwin County. Police say a woman was found shot to death last night at a condominium.
Even before police had a solid theory about how Angel Downs ended up shot dead with her own gun in her driveway, DA Judy Newcomb was on the case.
The sheriff called me about 11:30 and told me what had happened.
Ma'am, if you would, just step back, okay?
Police in Gulf Shores, Alabama, wear body cameras, and they recorded the scene that night.
I think they were still examining the issues of whether it was a suicide or a homicide.
Why weren't they sure?
It's someone who's shot in the head with their own gun, which statistically would be a suicide, and what everybody's first impression when they see it is, oh, someone killed themselves.
It had one still in the chamber and 6 left in the magazine.
Her gun lay just inches away.
Did it ever cross your mind that this could have been a suicide?
Never. Not one time.
But Angel's closest friends and her family knew 4 years earlier she had tried suicide.
Angel was going through a very difficult period. At that time, I think she realized Stephen was not leaving his wife.
In 2006, she took an overdose of pills.
How did you find out that she had taken all those pills?
Well, in 2006, she actually called me to tell me she was sorry for what she had done. She was so sorry for ever hurting me.
By continuing the relationship
Right.
with Stephen Nodine.
Right.
Copy, come to the scene.
And that suicide attempt is just one fact that makes this case so hard to figure out. It obviously became a huge red flag immediately in May 2010. But her sister says Angel died with plans for the future. She was expected at a dinner party that night and had just made appointments for the following week. It looked nothing like suicide to Susan Bloodworth.
If she was going to do it, she would do it peacefully. Take pills, go to sleep. Not take a gun and shoot yourself. I hate to say, she was vain, but Angel was vain in the sense that she wouldn't want someone to see her that way, to find her that way.
She was found face up in a pool of blood in the middle of her driveway for all her neighbors to see.
I had a neighbor come to my door. I lived just around the corner, and she told me someone had been shot, and she knew I was a nurse.
Ann Myers came running. She knew right away what she was looking at.
I knelt beside her, and I did an assessment like I normally do. I looked at the wound and pretty much figured out it was a fatal shot.
Stephen Nodine was nowhere to be found. Remember, he says he drove off moments earlier after getting his wallet from inside Angel's condo. And he says when he pulled away from her driveway, he saw nothing and heard nothing.
My radio was going, my air conditioner was going. Somebody, one of the people said it sounded like a firecracker. I have horrible hearing to begin with. If I would have heard it, I would have known. If I would have seen her, I would have stopped and did everything I could to help her.
A few hours later, Nodine got a call from a friend saying the police wanted to talk to him. So he called his lawyer.
I said, what the hell's going on? And that's when he told me that there had been a shooting on Fort Morgan Road of a blonde-haired young lady. I immediately knew, obviously.
You knew?
I didn't know really, but I had a horrible sinking feeling in my gut.
Nodine went right to the police.
How long were you there?
Hours, 4 hours.
4 hours?
Offered to take any test.
How did they treat you? I mean, did you feel like you were a suspect?
No, absolutely not.
But he was wrong. Authorities didn't believe his story about what really happened earlier at the condo and also questioned what really happened afterwards. He told them after leaving Angel's, he first stopped at a convenience store where he's seen on surveillance tape. Then he went to this golf club, but it was closed. Next, he says he drove to one restaurant, changed clothes in his truck, but then decided that restaurant was too crowded and ended up, again on tape, at this restaurant nearby.
And that's where you ate?
I didn't eat, drank some coffee, drank some water, and watched the game.
The next morning, I received further calls from law enforcement.
What were some of the things that had concerned the police?
Well, I think the statement Mr. Nodine gave that night, I think the more they looked at the scene.
The truck's been in and out here, you know what I'm saying?
What they knew about the day, just different issues were concerning them.
It was like the gunshot and he was pulling off.
That it, in fact, could be a homicide.
And then things started moving more quickly than anyone had seen before. Just 2 weeks after Angel's death,
What have you been indicted for?
Stephen Nodine was indicted for murder and arrested. Timing raised some eyebrows because DA Judy Newcomb was up for re-election.
Fighting crime.
And Election Day was just days away.
Nobody gets indicted on a murder charge 2 weeks after the murder.
Dennis Knisley was Nodine's lawyer.
He put it together with being 8 days before the election. It appeared to be not so much going after Steve, but an opportunity to have some high-profile prosecution immediately before the election.
Did politics and your desire for re-election play any part in the way you handled this case?
No.
Not at all?
Not at all. Most people know that I'm probably the least political person in Baldwin County.
Did you ever think you'd find yourself in handcuffs, Steve?
Nodine was pretty well known to the police, and not just because he was a public figure. In 2009, before Angel's death, traces of marijuana were found in Nodine's county-issued pickup truck. He was forced to resign. Nodine admits he smoked pot to control hip pain and later became addicted to prescription painkillers.
He got addicted to Lortabs, and he was abusing them at the time of this arrest.
Nodine's problems were piling up. Shortly after he was indicted for murder, prosecutors here in Alabama discovered he had guns. None of them had anything to do with Angel's death, but he was still charged under a seldom used federal statute for being a drug user who owned guns.
I believe it was collusion between the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Baldwin County DA.
It was first things first. The gun case would have to wait for the murder case, and it took 7 months for that trial to begin.
It had been probably the most publicized murder case in South Alabama in, 50 or 100 years.
Did you shoot your girlfriend in the head?
Prosecutor Judy Newcomb was in the spotlight and on the spot. Remember, she had no forensic evidence, nothing to physically tie Nodine to Angel Downs' death. But she told us she was ready for trial.
Other than some of the big cases people do on television and a whole lot of cases that we do, there's not a lot of forensic evidence.
With their animals.
She'll get some help from Angel's friends and family who say Nodine could be not just controlling, but frightening. Her sister says he stalked Angel online and in person.
He would do drive-bys. He would come by her home. He would send her text messages and say, I see someone's at your house, who is it? He would leave notes on her car.
Did you stalk Angel?
Absolutely not.
Even during these periods where you were fighting and all, when you would break up, did you do anything that could be interpreted as stalking?
Not in any sense. Imaginary or likewise. I mean, there's just no way.
But Emily Simmons and Kayla King-Donald say Angel told them Nodine beat her and pushed her several times. Nodine denies it all, and there were no police reports filed. But the friends say in the weeks before her death, Angel was getting more afraid of Nodine.
She broke down in tears in her kitchen. And I said, why are you crying? And she said, he's not the same person I've known all these years, Emily. He's changed. Just always know that if you ever find me dead, he killed me.
I'm sorry?
If you ever find me dead, he killed me.
And the DA knew she could count on some powerful and chilling testimony about the last few moments of Angel Downs' life.
Angel was obviously scared for her to pull her gun and call me and ask her to shoot someone.
I think of Angel Downs every day. I think of her when I walk on the beach. I think of her almost every chance I get. And that is something that I'll miss for the rest of my life.
Prosecutors have spent 7 months preparing the case against Stephen Nodine for murdering Angel Downs, and the trial is about to begin.
He told me that he misses her every day and seemed to be crying.
Seemed to be. I can't believe it. I don't believe it. I believe it's an act. He's a politician. Turn the waterworks on when you want to, you know, flip the switch.
How do the handcuffs feel, Steve?
Nodine, the one-time county commissioner, was now a defendant in a murder case, and his lawyer, Dennis Nisley, says that meant a big adjustment.
It took a while for Steve to get out of the mentality and the mode of I'm a person in a position of authority into I'm a person charged with a crime, murder, and I'm fighting for my life.
I'm used to being in control, but certainly I'm at a loss here of my destiny.
His destiny would be determined by others, a judge and jury.
What made me nervous leading up to the trial is that there was no smoking gun.
In December 2010, prosecutor Judy Newcomb opened her murder case against him, and she says there's plenty of circumstantial evidence, starting with the position of Angel Downs' body.
The biggest thing that struck everyone as extremely strange is that Angel's hair, literally her hair looked like it had been laid out, as opposed to someone falling back.
And Ann Myers, Angel's neighbor, the retired nurse, thought so too.
Her hair was just a perfect, like somebody combed it out like a halo, which I've never seen before, you know, in a trauma case.
Newcomb's theory was if Angel had shot herself, she would have crumpled to the ground and her hair would never have ended up arranged like that. To the DA, it looked as if someone had staged the scene. She tried demonstrating by falling backwards onto the floor herself, right here in this courtroom. It would have been a dramatic moment for the prosecutor, if only it had worked.
Her hair flayed out exactly like Miss Downs did, so showing it was not staged. It was just that's what happens when ladies with long hair fall back.
You must have been quite pleased with the way that turned out.
It was a positive time for the defense there.
A positive time.
Yeah.
It didn't come out as clearly as maybe you would have hoped.
Clearly is the good word.
Yeah.
But I do not think it was the failure that it was reported to be.
Newcomb could still try to get the jury to focus on what happened just before and just after Angel's death.
Well, that was that night. Angel called. It was Mother's Day.
Angel's sister Susan got a call that evening from Angel, but she was busy and ignored it. And then she got a second call.
All she said was, if someone's trying to break into your home, where do you shoot them? And I said, the chest, the largest part of the body. And I said, is it Stephen? She said, no, it's not Stephen.
But Susan feared the worst.
And I said, if you can't tell me who it is over the phone, send me a text in case something happens. I know what's going on.
Had she texted you?
When I looked at my phone, I actually had a text from Angel that said, Stephen Nodine is here. My heart sank.
6 to 7 minutes later, we have a 911 call and she's dead.
So what do you think happened that evening?
I don't know. I've played it in all scenarios, but at the end of the day, I don't think she was the one that pulled the trigger.
I don't know what happened. I don't know if she came out to threaten him with it and he turned it on her. There's only 2 people that know, and now only 1.
So, exactly where was Nodine when the shot was fired? This man might well know. Roger Whitehead is the neighbor who lived across the street and a few houses down from Angel. He heard the shot, and as he told the police that night, he rushed outside.
When the gunshot went off, I heard it. I stepped outside, and he was pulling off that way.
It is a critical point in this case, because if Nodine's truck was still in front of Angel's house after the shot was fired, he would have been in a position to have killed her. And that's just where Whitehead told us he saw the truck, making a U-turn, as we demonstrated.
He would have been coming out of the turn at an angle that was nearly directly facing me like this, and then proceeded to leave.
But Nodine insists he left as he always did, by first driving all the way around this traffic island, as we did, then passing in front of Whitehead's condo on the way out. And he says he heard and saw nothing since his radio was playing, the air conditioner was on, and the windows were rolled up.
So there's really 2 ways to get out of there. You could have pulled around that end of the cul-de-sac, or you could have just made a U-turn.
I know exactly what I did. I pulled around the cul-de-sac.
That would mean that when the shot was fired, Nodine was more likely around here, hundreds of feet from Angel's driveway. But Nodine could be in trouble if the jury believes he was much closer to Angel's at the time of her death than he said. But he got a boost for his case that Angel shot herself from the autopsy report, which listed a potent mix of drugs in her system at the time she died.
When you have Ambien, and you have Xanax, and you have Adderall, and you have alcohol, and you've got health issues, that just pushed her over the edge, and she killed herself.
No, you don't call and ask her to shoot someone who's trying to break into your house, and then you're gonna go and take pills and go shoot yourself in the driveway of your home. I mean, Angel was calling because someone was trying to get into her home. That someone was Stephen Nodine.
In most cases, the medical examiner's opinion helps jurors decide the manner of death. But this case isn't anything like most cases. In December 2010, when Stephen Nodine went on trial for murdering Angel Downs, prosecutor Judy Newcomb knew this was a tough case. For starters, the state's own medical examiner could not settle on the circumstances of Angel Downs' death. There's no doubt that the fatal shot came from Angel's own gun, but that's about all that's clear in this case. Alabama medical examiner Eugene Hart came to this courtroom to testify for the prosecution. He's the one who performed the autopsy on Angel.
When he came to court, he said, from a forensic pathology standpoint, everything indicated it was suicide.
But he didn't call it suicide.
Didn't.
He called it what?
Inconclusive.
Inconclusive, which could mean suicide, could mean homicide.
Knisley says the prosecutor tried to influence Dr. Hart into not calling Angel's death a suicide.
Pressure would not be the word. May have influenced him.
Okay, influenced him?
Well, pressure, it has a negative connotation of some maybe impropriety.
But Newcomb says she just asked Dr. Hart to review the evidence.
I never tried to influence his decision about a suicide. What we did try to say is we'd like you to really examine this case to see if you can reach a decision.
Hart would not call it murder, so Newcomb called in another medical examiner from another state, Georgia. He did not examine Angel's body, but 3 months after her death, he did review crime scene photos and other evidence. And when he rendered his opinion, it matched Newcomb's.
His opinion was that it was a homicide.
Homicide.
So the jury heard 2 experts, both working for the prosecution, with 2 different opinions about how Angel Downs died. One said it was homicide, the other said he couldn't be sure, but it looked like suicide. The jurors also had to sort through different theories about how the gun was held to Angel's head.
Angel would have had to be kind of cocked back like this, the way the angle of the gun was, to commit suicide. And that's not natural, someone who's going to commit suicide.
This was pressed so hard against her head, there was a muzzle imprint.
Defense attorney Dennis Knisley thinks the evidence about the gun helps his client.
So the gun was against her head like this?
Right hand gun, exactly as you would expect the gun to be, up and slightly back if it was a self-inflicted wound. The gun was laying down beside her body. There was absolutely no signs of struggle on her or him. There was no blood on his truck. There was no blood in his truck. There was no blood on him. There was no blood on his hands. There was no blood on his clothing whatsoever.
But no tests were required or done at that time for gunshot residue on either Nodine or Angel, and no fingerprints were found on Angel's gun.
You had gloves on before you touched that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. They had taken the gun and they had tested the gun without testing it for fingerprints until it came back. The gun had already been handled by forensics and everything else and wiped down. That's why they didn't have any fingerprints.
All of that, plus Angel's previous suicide attempt, proves, says Knisley, that she shot herself.
You're going to see blood down.
Still, DA Judy Newcomb thinks, given the strange stories Nodine told police and the allegations that he beat and stalked Angel, she's proved her case.
I think the totality of all the circumstances, I mean, you know, unless you have a video of a crime, and, you know, in today's world, sometimes people think we should have a video of every crime. We have to apply our common sense and logic, and, you know, I support the case that we built against him.
Well, where do you live out here?
Angel's neighbor, Roger Whitehead, the man who comes closest to being an eyewitness, is not so sure.
If you were a juror, would you convict Stephen Nodine of murder?
No, sir.
Because?
We were supposed to be convicted beyond a reasonable doubt, but I have no idea what transpired here that night.
That was up to the jurors to decide. They wrestled with the evidence for 6 hours and came back deadlocked on the murder charge. The judge had no choice. He had to declare a mistrial.
We wanted to get a verdict and we were hoping to put this behind us now.
I was disappointed that they weren't given a longer time to deliberate.
We wanted him to be found guilty of murder. We believe 100% it was murder, that he murdered her.
Stephen Nodine was a free man, but only for 4 months. He agreed to plead guilty to that old federal gun charge, possessing a gun while using drugs.
God will show the way.
And that put him away for a year in prison, while Alabama prosecutors decided whether to retry him for murder. That was now up to Hallie Dixon, the newly elected district attorney who had defeated Judy Newcomb. And it was one tough call for her.
The public had been completely convinced that this was a murder. I had law enforcement and a chief of police and investigators telling me that it wasn't a homicide, and that's tough.
Dixon convened a new grand jury to examine the case. After hearing the evidence, there was a decision. Stephen Nodine would not be charged with murder again.
Our grand jury returned an indictment for criminally negligent homicide.
In Alabama, that's not a felony. It's a misdemeanor that says Nodine was partially responsible for Angel Downs' death.
That but for him that night, that day, she would still be alive. And that was the question. It's not a matter of proving suicide. It's a matter of proving whether or not there was a homicide. And when I have no evidence, physical evidence, that is consistent with somebody else being the trigger person, then as a prosecutor, I don't bring a case on that.
There we are right there. There's the whole family.
Angel's family was furious that Dixon was not refiling a murder charge against Nodine.
I think Hallie Dixon sabotaged the case. That's exactly what I think happened.
They would not rest.
And we were ready to go through another trial, no matter how hard, no matter how difficult it is. Angel's dead. Angel can't speak. You know, we're the only people who can push for her.
So they went over Dixon's head. They appealed to the Alabama Attorney General and demanded a special prosecutor. They won. A special prosecutor was named, took the case away from Dixon, and decided to retry Stephen Nodine for murder.
And how did you feel then?
We were elated. We're like, thank
Thought we had
God,
a
you know,
chance,
hopefully, you know, finally, maybe we can get justice and, you know, get somebody who's going to take this case and move forward with it.
Just hope that there's peace for everyone. We can move on with our lives.
Once again, Stephen Nodine finds himself in a familiar place, a courthouse. And this time, he isn't just asking for help from his lawyer.
We pray for real fairness and compassion, that Steve, oh Lord, now will be able to put this behind him in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
But Susan Bloodworth thinks his attention should be directed elsewhere.
I say that Stephen Nodine is on track for a one-way ticket to hell. And that's honestly where I'd like to see him.
But in this case, neither side's prayers were answered. Special Prosecutor David Whetstone was set to try Nodine again for murder, but they were all in court because there was a change in plans. There was a plea deal and a remarkable admission from the special prosecutor.
Do we have proof beyond a reasonable doubt? No. That was the basis of the plea.
A sudden turn today in the Steve Nodine murder case.
After more than 2 years of trying to convict Stephen Nodine of killing Angel Downs, the state of Alabama dropped the murder charge and a stalking charge. In return, Nodine pled guilty to a much less serious charge, perjury for lying on a legal form. He also agreed to plead no contest to a charge he harassed Angel Downs with emails and text messages.
So you got what a lot of people might consider a pretty good deal. Do you think it's a good deal?
No.
Why?
Because I was innocent of all the charges.
He was ordered to spend 2 years in jail, and even then he was just barely incarcerated. He spent nights and weekends in the county jail. He spent his days working for his lawyer. It was a far cry from his one-time high-flying, high-powered life.
What do you do here? What's your job?
Manage the office.
It's a different life than you were used to, but do you like it?
No.
What would you rather be doing?
I'd rather be back in politics and working and help shape some of the future of South Alabama like I was before.
But that will have to wait. Nodine's only real responsibility now is to be sure he makes it across the street to the jail every evening and on time. Angel's family had been hoping for a lot more.
He got off very lightly.
Treatment.
He got special treatment.
It goes back to politics. Stephen's a politician. You know, he's very persuasive.
What sentence should he have gotten?
There's no sentence good enough for him. There is nothing that will ever bring Angel back. She's gone. I think he should have been sentenced for murder. We have to accept what happened and move on. There's Angel's graduation picture.
Angel's family will move on, but they will carry with them a grudge against DA Hallie Dixon, who declined to prosecute Nodine for murder.
She's got a lot of similarities with Stephen Nodine. You know, the two would make a great couple.
No family wants to believe that their loved one killed themselves. That family has the additional pressure of they're very strong in their faith, and I think there are religious reasons for some folks that suicide is unacceptable.
Show us the proof, show us the documentation. We have a hard time accepting what Hallie Dixon did to this case.
There's absolutely no way that Mr. Nodine could have shot, staged a crime scene, and still been blood-free and speeding off within the seconds that were talked about.
Dixon says a lot of people would get the answers they still seek had she been allowed to prosecute Nodine, even for the misdemeanor, criminally negligent homicide.
The way it went down, I think it has left people going, well, what happened? What happened? What happened? And it was a little frustrating for me, because if it had gone to trial, the truth would be there.
Almost everyone is frustrated with the way this case turned out, but perhaps no one is more dissatisfied than Angel Downs' family. They are still hoping for answers from Stephen Nodine.
It's hard the not knowing unless he tells what really happened that night. What really happened that night.
Stephen Nodine ended up back behind bars full-time when he violated the terms of his work release program, mainly by missing his curfew. In October 2014, having served his 2 years, Nodine was released from jail. His wife had divorced him, but he was reunited with his son.
I'm going to spend time with my son. I have to find a job. I'm hoping people realize that people make mistakes in their lives and have forgiveness, as I forgive those who wrongfully prosecuted me.
Nodine was arrested just before Christmas for leaving.
It didn't take long before Nodine ended up back in court again. This time, he violated the terms of his probation. He left the state without permission and failed a drug test.
Nodine pled guilty, his probation was revoked, and he was sentenced to 60 days behind bars.
And that was probably the end of Stephen Nodine's hope for a return to local politics. He's back out of jail, but unable to find a job in Mobile. So Nodine decided to move to Florida.
I was looking forward to getting married. We were gonna have like the fairy tale life. We first met online, it was in June of 2017. Patrick was definitely movie star handsome. He definitely had the whole package. I am Jessica Devnani and Patrick de la Cerda was my fiance.
This was your engagement ring?
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. He never got to give it to me.
Patrick de la Cerda was planning his future. Him and Jessica were looking forward to moving towards West Palm. That's where Patrick's mother, Patricia, lived.
And one day he came and he said, "Mom, this one is the one. This one is the one." And he was waiting for the ring.
That morning just started off a normal morning for him and Jessica. They texted each other, "Good morning, I love you."
He had got a phone call from his dad saying that there was a package being delivered at the gate. He thought it was the ring that was coming in that day.
So Patrick then goes down, probably looking forward to this, right?
Yes.
He would usually call her, and that was about the time she was getting to work, which, made her worry.
And it's like she instinctually knew something was wrong at that point.
And why were you afraid for Patrick?
I was afraid because of the threats that were made in the past.
I'm making a phone call. I'm giving instructions, and I'm going to have my plan put into action.
You felt at that moment that something terrible may have happened.
Yes. I left work right away to be on my way to check on Patrick.
You get here as quickly as you can.
Yes, I got up right along this path. I had to climb the fence.
I don't think Patrick de la Cerda had any idea what was waiting for him on the other side of that door. There was multiple shots fired. Patrick was hit multiple times. It appeared that he was killed like ambush style.
And I'll never forget the scene. Like, it's still in my head every day.
If anybody else is here. Is anybody else here?
It was just the worst thing you could ever see in your entire life.
Clearly, this wasn't a random killing.
Someone had a vendetta against Patrick.
It was personal and it was planned. It was an assassination.
My whole future was taken away from me. My whole world was taken away.
Sheriff's officer, get in there, come on now!
That day, we were at the office, kind of going through casework and paperwork and things like that.
What started as a slow Tuesday morning back in 2018 for Volusia County, Florida Sheriff's Detective Chad Weaver changed dramatically
911, where's your emergency?
when this fragmented 911 call from a neighbor reporting Patrick de la Cerda's death came in.
Has been shot and killed.
When did that happen?
I don't know.
You don't want to try CPR, correct?
No, he's dead. He's cold.
Within minutes, sheriff's deputies, wearing body cameras, entered this lush 9-acre compound on the outskirts of Deltona. Worried that the killer may still be here.
Sheriff's office, if you're inside, you need to announce yourself now.
When the deputies showed up, they had their guns out and preparing for the worst, but hoping for the best.
With the gunman still at large, Detective Weaver took charge of the crime scene as TV news choppers hovered above.
As we walked up to that area, you could see a male, looked like he was in his early 20s, appeared that he was suffering from multiple gunshot wounds.
Deputies say someone shot right through his front door.
25-year-old Patrick de la Cerda had been shot 4 times by a high-powered rifle, right in the doorway of the house he shared with his father, Max, who was out of town that day.
I never got to say goodbye to my son. I never got to talk to him, nothing.
You could see the front door was open, there's glass all over the place, there's a lot of blood. You know, right off the bat, you're going, okay, this is probably gonna be a whodunit.
At the scene, Detective Weaver and several deputies approached a traumatized Jessica Devnani, Patrick's 29-year-old fiancée.
I was just walking in circles around like the front yard, just pacing up and down.
Ma'am, come over here. Stay here, behind the tree.
Just 2 months earlier, at this very location, Patrick had popped the question to Jessica and presented her with this temporary engagement ring.
It just came out of nowhere. He He just asked, like, will you marry me?
And what did you say?
Of course, I said yes. I was so excited.
The marriage proposal couldn't have come at a better time for Jessica, who worked as a bank teller. Months earlier, she had ended a tumultuous 8-year relationship and then met Patrick on a dating app.
We just fell in love like right away. It was a connection from the beginning, so it was kind of like love at first sight.
Jessica and Patrick, who worked a construction job with his father,
Pat the Builder,
partied and played together as their romance blossomed. Patrick ordered this custom-made work of art to be delivered to his home for Jessica's permanent engagement ring. He was a romantic, says his mother, Patricia Rons.
Patrick was a wonderful son, and he loved kids, he loved babies, and I really was looking forward to have grandchildren from him.
Jessica and Patrick lived in different cities. She was in Orlando, while Patrick lived with his father in Deltona, 30 miles away. On the night of February 26, 2018, Patrick left her this sweet voicemail.
I love you. Good night. Sweet dreams. Come in the morning. I'll call you. I'll send you a text when I wake up. All right. Love you. Good night. Bye.
It would be the last voicemail she would ever receive from her love. The next day, a series of what seemed like random events would change everything. The first came when Patrick's father, Max, who was 70 miles away working on a construction job, received a phone call.
So Max gets a phone call from an unknown person stating that they have a package to deliver to his son, Patrick. Max hangs up the phone. He tries to call Patrick. Patrick doesn't answer, so he sends him a text message. Hey, there's someone with a delivery. Max never hears from Patrick again after that. He never answers, never responds.
Meanwhile, Max and Jessica kept calling Patrick with no luck. Jessica feared the worst because of those disturbing threats the couple had received.
You're thinking he's been harmed.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
Max and Jessica rushed to the house. She got there first.
I'm approaching the front door, and that's where his body laid. Patrick just laying there, and this big pool of blood, and he was just lifeless.
Soon after Jessica discovered her fiancé's body, Patrick's dad arrived. He took us back to the crime scene with Jessica.
my son was lying down there. His head was right there. His foot were still on top of this. So that means that he fell back.
And that tells you the gunman was right here.
Yeah, that tells you that
because no bullet can take a right-hand turn.
Exactly, the guy was right there. My son saw this guy. He turned around, and the guy shot him because my son was just like this. My son was like this.
Wow.
Detective Weaver's team combed through the house. They soon discovered that the killer had taken Patrick's computer.
We got a camera above us, too.
And the hard drive from the home security camera system. Investigators also recovered unique shell casings from 300 blackout ammunition, bullets often used in semi-automatic weapons like an AR-15.
When we saw the shell casings with how close they were to the body, immediately realized that this was a calculated murder. This was planned.
But why would anyone want to kill Patrick de la Cerda? Weaver learned about a bizarre incident in 2017.
In a strange twist, News 6 discovered the young man has been shot at before.
When Patrick called police saying his neighbor had fired some bullets after arguments back and forth about trespassing, Patrick wasn't harmed.
There had been some complaints, and maybe Patrick felt that the neighbor was shooting towards their house.
This is night footage of the man being tackled and arrested by police for that incident. It was an intriguing lead until Weaver learned the man was in custody on the day Patrick was murdered.
So we were able to check him off the list.
Detective Weaver then focused on some ominous voicemails that had been discovered.
Call me back and talk to me.
which led them to a man that Patrick and Jessica knew quite well.
I'll talk to you soon, I hope.
I was really scared because he was always shadowing my life.
Learn more about Jessica and Patrick's relationship at 48hours.com.
A couple in love with everything in front of them. Dreams of marriage and family about to come true.
Jessica, look this way.
Then came February 27th, 2018. When Jessica Devnani came upon her fiancé, Patrick de la Cerda, in a pool of blood at his home, shot 4 times at close range by an assassin.
I think my mind just doesn't want to accept it. My whole future was taken away from me. My whole world was taken away.
The ambush-style assault of Patrick made it seem like the killer was lying in wait. Detective Chad Weaver was hoping Jessica might have a lead that would jumpstart his investigation.
And we were speaking to her about any enemies or any problems with anyone that Patrick had had.
The detective learned that there was someone who wasn't happy with Jessica and Patrick's whirlwind romance.
Who was that person?
My ex, Gregory Bender.
Jessica told Detective Weaver that right before she met Patrick, she broke up with Bender, her ex-boyfriend of 8 years. It was a breakup that he was not happy with.
He was not accepting of it. It's almost like he never left. He was always shadowing my life. He was not accepting of it at all.
He was very controlling.
And as Weaver was about to learn, Jessica and Bender had a very complicated love-hate kind of relationship over the 8 years they were together.
He could be very charming and manipulative.
At 42 years old, Bender was almost twice Jessica's age when they first met online in 2009. He was a successful hedge fund manager who lived in this house in Windermere, a wealthy suburb outside of Orlando.
He had a very charismatic personality. He was very intelligent. It felt like we'd known each other all our lives. He became my best friend.
Was he a down-to-earth kind of guy?
Not so much in the sense that he did like to show off. He loved fast cars and he loved guns as well.
But what, if anything, did Gregory Bender have to do with Patrick's death? Detective Weaver wanted to know more.
Patrick was middle-class, blue-collar, hard-working young man. Gregory, on the other hand, who's white-collar, well-educated, lived in a $750,000 house. Totally different people from totally different walks of life.
Jessica told the detective that Greg Bender simply couldn't tolerate the idea of any other man in her life. She told a story about what happened when she briefly dated someone else after first meeting Greg.
He did stalk the person that I was dating, and he described exactly where he lived, and he said that he would tie him up and harm him.
So a relationship that had love in it now had a little bit of terror in it.
I never feared what he could do to me, but I feared what he could do to other men.
Despite his jealousness and verbal threats, Jessica accepted Greg's proposal to marry a few years into their relationship.
I was in love with him at the time, and maybe I was a little bit naive at the time. I didn't want to find someone else.
And there is another twist in Jessica's twisted relationship with Greg. In early 2016, he was having a procedure done at a local hospital. Jessica decided to drop by for a surprise visit. When she entered Greg's room, another woman was there.
I was like, "What are you doing here?" She's like, "What are you doing here?" And I told her, I'm his fiance, and I showed her the ring. And then she showed me her ring. She's like, "I'm his wife."
She was this woman, Damara Sanchez.
He's secretly married to this woman?
Yes. My heart just dropped. I couldn't believe it. I was in shock.
Several days passed when Bender finally called Jessica and tried to explain that he had only married Sanchez so her son could go to school in the district where his house was located.
He said, "I'm so sorry." And he told me that he had only married her as like a business marriage. He was just trying to help her out, and they had an arrangement together.
At that point, Jessica had sort of had enough.
So you end up giving Greg Bender an ultimatum. What was that?
Yes, I told him that he had till the end of the year to leave her.
He had to divorce her, not only leave, but divorce.
Yes.
But that business marriage line was just another of Bender's lies, and he stayed married to Demera. With that, Jessica finally ended the relationship in 2017. 1 month later, Jessica met Patrick and began dating him. But Bender was often on her mind.
I was afraid that he would find out about our relationship.
But just 5 months after dumping him,
Gregory Bender came across our Facebook page. He immediately started messaging Patrick on his Facebook, threatening him, and he said, "I know where you live. I'm gonna harm you guys."
Bender left ominous voicemails like this one.
I'm giving instructions, and I'm going to have my plan put into action.
What's he talking about?
At that point in time, he had mentioned to me that he was gonna hire a hitman, or he was gonna do the job himself.
And what job was that?
To kill Patrick.
Enough was enough. Jessica and Patrick had these tapes and text messages presented to a judge who issued this restraining order. Bender was ordered to stay away from Jessica and turn in his large collection of firearms to authorities.
Did Greg Bender go away?
We thought he did go away. We didn't hear anything, and we felt confident.
Until, she told Detective Weaver, on the morning of Patrick's murder, Gregory Bender called for the first time in 2 months.
He called my job that very morning.
But Jessica said she didn't answer.
So when she got the phone call and saw on the caller ID that it was Gregory Bender, flags started going up, and that's what made her so worried.
Flags were also going up for Detective Weaver. He believed he now had a prime suspect in Patrick's death. And Weaver had an idea. Now was the time for Jessica to return Bender's calls, and investigators would listen in.
She really wanted to solve Patrick's murder. So she did that without hesitation.
Okay. Call him and put him on speaker. Hello?
Hello?
Detective Weaver was hopeful Bender might say something to implicate himself.
You ruined my life. You got your revenge, and you ruined my life.
What are you talking about? Hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Hey.
It was a tense, awkward moment. Just a few hours after she'd seen her fiancé's body, investigators asked Jessica Devnani to call the man they thought may have murdered him. Greg Bender quickly spoke up.
I saw what happened on the news. I want to tell you, I feel sorry for you.
I just wanted to try to do everything I could to help the investigation.
She reminded Bender about his previous threats.
And he said, enough is enough. I can't do this. I'm going to hire a hitman. I'm going to kill him.
No, that's not, no. I didn't say that.
Did you ask him outright, did you shoot Patrick?
I did. But that's why I want to find out if it is you.
No, it's not. I'm your friend. I did not do this.
Could you tell he was lying to you?
Yes, I could tell he was lying.
While Bender denied any involvement in Patrick's death, Detective Chad Weaver says there was enough evidence to arrest him, not for murder, but for violating that restraining order.
We had seen that he had attempted to contact her twice at work, which we found was a violation of that injunction.
Even with Bender behind bars for the night, Detective Weaver didn't have much to link him to Patrick's murder. Then he received a phone call from the attorney of Bender's now ex-wife, Demera Sanchez, the woman Jessica had first met in the hospital.
And he said, she has some information that will be valuable to your case.
Demera asked to meet Detective Weaver in a parking lot.
She was very, very nervous. She didn't want us coming to her house.
It turns out Demera had a pretty good reason to be nervous. She was about to provide a crucial piece of evidence.
So we spoke with her, and she had told us that her and Gregory had gotten a divorce and she moved out in December of 2017. Around that same time, she had discovered what she believed to be a murder plan in a spiral notebook that she had seen Gregory writing in the past.
A murder plan, handwritten in a notebook detailing an elaborate plot to kill. Damaris said when she confronted Bender about it, he told her it was all a fantasy, and she forgot about it.
25-year-old Volusia County man is dead.
Until she saw the report that the man Bender was supposedly fantasizing about killing had just been murdered.
But once she told us about the murder plan, and that gave us what we needed to get into the house to see, what else was in there.
Volusia County prosecutor Ashley Terwilliger says learning about the murder plan was a potential game changer if investigators could find it.
So the next day, February 28th of 2018, they execute the search warrant at Gregory Bender's home in Orange County, Florida, in Windermere.
Detective Weaver had some doubts. But almost as soon as he entered Bender's house, Weaver hit pay dirt. He spotted several balls of crumpled up notepaper.
I looked in the trash can and I was in shock. It's like, there's no way that we just found this murder plan. The first thing I wanted to do was reach in the trash can, grab it.
Weaver wisely held off while this paper was bagged and tagged for forensics. Later, when he was able to read the plan, it was just as Damaris said, a detailed roadmap for murdering Patrick de la Cerda.
Some of the first things in it were directions, and it actually had Patrick de la Cerda's address, Talon Boulevard.
Weaver took us to the crime scene to explain how the plan matched the actual murder.
This road leads down the side of the property. It's off of Howland Boulevard. This is important because the dirt road that was drawn on the murder plan runs down the side of the property. It's pretty heavily wooded down this way, so I think he walked on foot until he got to this opening. And this is the area that we believe Gregory Bender accessed to sneak up on our victim. The sketch of the property was spot on.
The plan was evidence of Bender's obsession with detail and compulsion to kill, says Weaver. The plan read, put duct tape on the bottom of a second pair of shoes so no tread prints. Wait for confirm that he is alone. Then turn off cell phones and dispose of clothes, plate, tracker, gloves. With the murder plan in hand, Weaver had a powerful case against Bender. And with the discovery of this ammunition, there was now a direct link to those unique bullet shells found at the scene.
They find that arsenal of 300 blackout ammunition.
Remember, Patrick was shot 4 times with that type of unique ammo, but only 2 shell casings were recovered at the crime scene. That's what made another discovery by investigators at Bender's house so important.
They find a shell casing in a desk drawer, essentially a junk drawer.
The casing matched the 2 recovered shell casings from the crime scene. Short of actually finding the murder weapon, in my opinion, I think that was probably the most important piece of evidence that we found.
That's because the murder weapon has never been recovered, although Jessica remembers seeing a powerful rifle at Bender's house when they dated.
The AR-15, the semi-automatic rifle, did he have one of those?
Yes, he did.
I think it's probably at the bottom of a lake somewhere.
The evidence was overwhelming. Weaver now had a clear and concise theory of the crime.
Greg Bender was lying in wait in the bushes, just out of view. He made the phone call posing as a delivery man. Patrick receives the text messages thinking that he has a package. And as Patrick answered the door, he shot and killed him.
Less than 48 hours after Patrick's death, an arrest warrant was issued for Gregory Bender, charging him with the murder. Volusia County Sheriff's deputies had an easy time locating their suspect, who had been released from jail after violating that restraining order. Bender was in his own front yard, says prosecutor Andrew Urbanik.
And Mr. Bender actually showed up, bonded out from the Orange County Jail just a short time after they started executing that warrant.
For Patrick's mother, the arrest is just the first step against a man she despises.
Psychopath, that's what he is. Do you want me to say his name? I've never pronounced his name. I don't want to pronounce his name. That is hurting my mouth to just say his name.
Why did Patrick have to die?
Just out of jealousy of a man that was obsessed, he thought that by doing this that I would go back to him.
But with no weapon, no eyewitnesses, and no DNA at the crime scene,
ultimately, this case is a circumstantial case.
Bender and his attorneys are planning a vigorous trial defense.
You started dating Patrick in June.
And using undercover video shot by a private eye, they plan to challenge Jessica on the stand about the real nature of her relationship with Greg Bender.
Why are you dining with Greg and going to Greg's house in November of 2017 if you're happily moving on with Patrick?
What do you make of Gregory Bender leaving his murder plan in the trash can?
Two months after Patrick de la Cerda was gunned down as he went to his front door, expecting to pick up that engagement ring for Jessica Devnani,
He got me the perfect ring.
she was finally able to put on the ring at her 30th birthday celebration, a surprise finally delivered by Patrick's family.
Why do you wear that ring today?
I wear it because Patrick will always be the love of my life.
And Jessica will be wearing the ring at the murder trial of Greg Bender, her former boyfriend who stands accused of stalking and killing the man she had hoped to marry.
All right.
This day could not have come soon enough, says Patrick's devastated mother, Patricia.
Jessica and I, we felt victimized every single day for 3.5 years because we have no voice, absolutely no voice.
Prosecutor Ashley Terwilliger is now the voice Patrick's loved ones had longed for as she began her opening statement.
Patrick de la Cerda was the victim of a murder, a detailed and meticulously thought out murder plan, and a tragic ending in which he was shot 4 times in the head, face, chest, and hip.
Defense attorney Richard Parker says the state's case is no slam dunk.
And we'll show that there's more than just 1 or 2 people that have motive and opportunity in this case.
Jessica is the prosecution's star witness and will be the first to testify.
It was really hard. I was really nervous.
Jessica describes for the jury how Gregory Bender was a man consumed by jealousy, who made many threats.
He would message me saying if I didn't leave Patrick, he would harm Patrick.
And Jessica read one of those threatening texts for the jury.
Think about it. If I don't hear from you or the cops, call again. I'll just do what I said and move on.
Jurors learned that Bender went to extraordinary lengths to poison Jessica and Patrick's relationship. As you can see on this secretly recorded video, it appears Bender and Jessica are at lunch, and then a week later at a restaurant enjoying dinner, just a few months after she started dating Patrick. Prosecutor Andrew Urbanek.
Did you actually see these videos?
I did.
The encounters were captured by a private investigator hired by Bender. There's a scene of the two of them entering and leaving Bender's home. He's seen rubbing Jessica's leg for the camera. They hold hands. And here, he leans in for a kiss.
It felt really odd. I felt like he was trying to put on a show because he kept trying to get close to me and trying to hold my hand, which he never used to do. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, we're just friends right now. What are you trying to do?
But prosecutors say the video was all a setup.
What did he do with it?
He had given it to Patrick.
Did that cause some strife between you and Patrick in your relationship?
Yes. We had a fight and we had broke up for a few days.
Did the two of you end up getting back together after that?
Yes.
Defense attorneys tried to use their client's video production to convince jurors that Jessica and Bender actually were more than just friends.
Why are you dining with Greg and going to Greg's house in November of 2017 if you're happily moving on with Patrick?
Because the defendant was threatening and I was trying to calm him down. And he said that if I went to see him, he would not harm anyone.
The defense tries another tactic. making what prosecutors say is an unfounded allegation that Patrick's father, Max, was attracted to Jessica.
Did Max de la Cerda comment in a very positive way regarding your appearance?
Same objection, Judge. Still hearsay statement.
Would you say you have a good relationship with her?
I didn't have a relationship with her at all.
That led to a combative cross-examination when Max took the stand.
What you're asking is making no sense. I don't think that has nothing to do with Patrick's murder.
And the defense implied he may have had the motive and the opportunity to kill his own son because of discrepancies in his whereabouts that day.
Your girlfriend said that you were in fact staying with her. Is it her memory that's wrong, or is it yours?
It might be mine, sir. I'm constantly on the go. I work here, I work there. I don't keep track of phones. I don't keep track of time. So what point are you trying to make? I don't know.
They wanted to blame it on Max, and you can tell he's angry that his son was killed unnecessarily, violently, horrifically, and now he has to be in a room with his son's killer.
Throughout the trial, Bender remained stoic until his ex-wife Damaris Sanchez took the stand and spoke through an interpreter.
Were you married to Mr. Bender?
¿Usted estaba casada con el señor Bender?
Sí.
Yes.
During Damaris' testimony, Bender broke down, showing emotion for the first time in the trial. And jurors heard her audio interview with Weaver about the murder plan.
It was a plan to kill the guy, I guess.
The guy's Patrick.
Yeah.
During a break in her testimony, Bender appears to say, "I love you" to someone in the gallery and is admonished by an official.
Don't talk to anybody in the courtroom.
When Detective Weaver took the stand, the defense grilled him about the lack of forensic evidence in the case.
How about any hair or skin or DNA, anything like that from the scene that was helpful to your investigation?
No, sir.
Prosecutors responded by calling cell phone experts who could connect Greg Bender's personal phone to a burner phone that was tracked to a cell tower near the murder scene.
So the burner phone is the cell phone that made the call to Max de la Cerda that morning at 7:18 a.m.
Yes.
The state would rest at this time.
Thank you.
After the prosecution rested, Greg Bender chose not to testify.
Are you comfortable with the decision you have made?
Yes. Thank you, Your Honor.
For closing arguments, prosecutors said Greg Bender was the only person who had motive to kill Patrick.
He couldn't take that Jessica left him and wouldn't come back to him because of Patrick de la Cerda.
Counsel, you may proceed.
In his closing, defense attorney Richard Parker insisted that Bender's murder plan did not equate to guilt.
This case is about the difference between a fantasy and reality. People should not be judged on their worst thoughts just because they put them to paper. But that's what they're doing in this case.
Finally, after 4 days of testimony, the case went to the jury. Prosecutor Andy Urbanik was uncertain about what verdict they'd come back with.
Once it goes to the jury, we can't make any guarantees.
But Jessica Devnani was confident a guilty verdict would finally put an end to Bender's reign of terror.
It's my understanding you have a verdict.
I just wanted to see the expression on his face.
This is where my son lives. Go ahead. We'll follow you. This is his place. Okay, this was Patrick's place.
Memories.
This is for my Christmas card that he gave me.
Tender words from a son.
Dad, with all my love, thank you for always being there for me. To many more years, love, Patrick.
Max de la Cerda surrounds himself with reminders of his son,
That's Patrick.
taken violently and far too soon.
I feel my son's presence here. I haven't moved his stuff. I have, everything is pretty much the same because I love this kid so much, man.
The only reason make me feel better is that I lost my child for love.
Patrick's mother, Patricia, has found some solace in her suffering.
He had love in his heart when he passed. He was going down the stair to get the ring.
And Jessica Devnani still wears that very engagement ring in honor of a marriage that never took place.
It's been hard past 3 years. Like, I've been living in respect to Patrick.
But now, Patrick's loved ones huddle together, hoping finally, 3 years after Patrick's murder, the jury will give them justice.
State of Florida v. Gregory Bender.
During 4 days of testimony, they relived the horror of his death, listening to excruciating details of Bender's murder plan.
We can see an entrance wound on the right side of the face.
It's my understanding you have a verdict. Is that correct?
As the verdict was about to be read, Bender looked directly at Jessica.
He was looking at me. I don't know what was going on in his head.
Madam Clerk, if you could please read the verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Gregory Bender, as follows. Guilty of the charge of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment.
And it's guilty, and his face does what?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
In Florida, a conviction of first-degree murder carries an automatic life sentence without parole. So just moments after the emotion of victory, Patrick's loved ones are allowed to address the court as Greg Bender listens just a few feet away.
First, Your Honor,
Patrick's mother.
I want to thank all of you for having put evil where it belongs.
Jessica then spoke, but chose not to look at her tormentor.
You will not win. You have only lost. I hope you feel some peace, Patrick. Rest assured, the man who took your life is going to pay with his own life now.
Then it was Max's turn.
I will miss my son, and I regret that I wasn't there for him to save him.
Remember that during the trial, the defense shamefully tried to suggest that Max may have been involved in his son's murder.
I hope they keep you in jail until you die there. Until you died. Because the moment you step out, I'm going to finish you off. I'm going to peel you like an onion. The same thing you did to my son.
Mr. Davis, sir. Max, you have to address the judge.
That?
You have to address the judge.
I will miss my son. He was a beautiful soul. A beautiful kid.
And with that, Greg Bender was carted off to prison for the rest of his life.
He lost everything. He's not going to win again, ever again.
Jessica and Patricia are angry that this restraining order they felt would offer protection for Patrick turned out to be worthless.
My son would be today alive if the restraining order had been enforced by the law enforcement.
Bender had been ordered to turn over his gun collection to the Orange County Sheriff's Office. He never did. And without probable cause for a search warrant, law enforcement lacked the authority to seize those weapons.
It failed us. It failed Patrick.
Now behind bars, the days of Greg Bender lurking in the shadows of Jessica's life are finally over.
Will you go on with life as Patrick would like you to do?
I will. I will go on for Patrick. I will live in his happy memories close to my heart.
1 week after Greg Bender's conviction was what would have been Patrick's 29th birthday.
Patrick's mom and I, we went out to the cemetery in West Palm Beach, and we just celebrate his life. We brought some cake and we brought some champagne. And
what did you say to Patrick on his birthday when you were at his grave?
we finally did it. We got the guilty verdict. We always tell him we love him. We will always love him.
Accused of his mother's murder at 14.
What kid could commit a crime that violent and not leave any forensic evidence?
Then sentenced to life.
The state never really had any case against this kid.
Was he wrongfully convicted?
She was very close with Michael. He was her baby.
48 Hours, next on CBS.